Alright, so Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga has another chapter this month. How fucking wonderful. Even in our coronavirus season, Vinland Saga, I don't think, has missed anything. But here we are with Vinland Saga Chapter 127 review. Now, this may look different to some of you in the old YouTube audience. May look familiar to some of you. This is what we do for our Attack on Titan chapter reviews. I make an old PowerPoint and we go through it slide by slide. Because you can't scroll through the chapter and just talk about it periodically, because your channel will get deleted if you do that. The copyright people will come for you. So this is a good alternative where I can have notes and images on the side here while also talking about it. We are also live on Twitch now. You're probably seeing chat on screen. You got our friend Savage Bacon, all the people in here. We'll see what they're all up to. I'll read chat in a second after we get through this. Title, very clickbaity. We'll talk about this the more we get it. Hopefully some Attack on Titan people clicked on this video who haven't seen Vinland Saga just to see what all the fucking fuss was about. That'll be funny. Also, we hit 1,000 subscribers recently. That's fun too. Do we have any housekeeping bullshit to get on with before this? But we've called it Base Thorfinn destroys Eren Jaeger and his followers. Vinland Saga Chapter 172 review. We've been talking about this on stream for the last 45 minutes, so we're ready to talk about this by your friend Kyle Entertainment. Definitely not clickbait. We will talk about Attack on Titan stuff, but it's way deeper. So if you are an Attack on Titan boy and you want to avoid Vinland Saga spoilers, you better get the fuck up out of here. Which also means if you're a Vinland Saga boy that wants to avoid Attack on Titan stuff, maybe when we get to the fucking Attack on Titan slide, you might want to get the fuck out of here. But I already got your view, haha. So let me just fucking catch up on chat. Nah, we should probably talk about slide 1 before we talk about chat. So basically this chapter was great. That's my point. There's a side tangent in here about some Attack on Titan stuff. That's why the title's that. But besides that, even irregardless of that, this chapter was really good. It's the second really good Vinland Saga chapter in a row. That's very exciting. I like that. Vinland Saga getting back on the top of things and moving the plot a little bit forward. And doing some interesting things with the characters. This is basically another display in pacifism. We've got a bunch of these chapters before, but Yukimura really has to sell this message to the audience, so this is what he's going to try and do here. And I think he's done successfully. There's been a little bit of controversy about people agreeing with Sword Boy here, but they are the dumbest people. You will find some of them in my chat. We'll talk about them. We'll talk to them progressively throughout this review. Savage is probably already spamming shit on screen here, even though I can't see it. And that reminds me, we should probably switch chat over to this side. And look, there is Savage. I will go back and I will read. We don't want to do that. We'll talk about it all progressively. This video will obviously be a lot longer than they usually are, because we have a lot to talk about, and we got chat interaction, because there are some Vinland Saga boys in chat. You should come and be one of those Vinland Saga boys in chat over on the Twitch stream. Link is in the description. But we start Thorfinn's sword policy. Obviously, everything he says about swords in this chapter could apply to gun rights in America, but that's a big meme. So yeah, basically this entire chapter is fundamentally a conversation between Sword Boy, who I cannot remember the name of. I think I just call him Tattooed Boy in here. You know who I'm talking about. And Thorfinn, and they have a back and forth. Everyone's made the comparison to this stupid fucking Patrick meme. You've seen it. You've read the chapter if you're here, so what the fuck. Thorfinn has a strict no swords policy for all the Vinland settlers. If you don't understand why this is imperative and why Vinland fails instantaneously because of this, well, if this doesn't go through, if we take swords to Vinland, I can't see how you made it this far into Vinland Saga. There are a lot of people mad about this. I cannot comprehend why. Thorfinn spends most of the chapter going back and forth with this tattooed gentleman and concedes every point he brings up, and even though it's not the smartest decision, remains steadfast that obviously bringing swords directly contradicts the entire point of the voyage. This is pretty self-evident. If they bring swords, they will use them. This is something that's demonstrated later in the chapter. There's no point to bring swords other than to fight, because they probably are going to take axes and knives, and they will not use them to fight either. But swords explicitly are only used to fight people and kill people, and that's obviously against Thorfinn's message and why Vinland is important. Of course, if you remember back to the very original Thor speech, it's supposed to be a land without war or slavery, and that can't happen if we start killing people, because then the cycle of vengeance will start. This is all explored later in the chapter, we understand. I don't think we have to go into this anymore. It's very great theming stuff for this chapter. Let me check chat, because they have fucking exploded, as our friend Minty would say. That's besides the point. Okay, explain. Savage says, I don't remember what we were talking about. 3 try hard says, hello, Berserk Vinland boy here. That's cool. Hey, people. Kyle is a pacifist dum-dum, Savage says. Savage, you've probably seen him if you watch any of our other stream highlight uploads, does not like pacifism. He's one of those people. Just in time, 3 hour Travis, he's recording for YouTube. Nice. Savage, you're being the flipped version of a woke lib who calls everyone the right, to the right of them a fascist right now. Getting political here. Minty, important to know, is a big fucking commie. So when he says libs, he's attacking them from the left, not from the right. He needs to specify this more when he says stuff. But there you go. And then everyone's saying hello to Tryhard. Oh shit, he should have moved chat to the right. Some people complain in the comments. No one's ever complained about it in the comments, but Minty always complains about it in stream, and we did that. Same guy from Reddit, right? Oh, Bacon's here too. Gotta love the small Vinland community. Yes, our boy Bacon. He's in chat right now. He's made some Vinland Saga videos of his own. You can find his channel if you just search Jarky Bacon. That's nice. He's also on the Reddit all the time. I guess this tryhard bloke is as well. It's literally the point. The allies of the nations destroyed everything and keep the peace, but Hitler couldn't. Savage is trying to make a Hitler comparison. Fuck him. That's a valid reason to not participate in real life, Savage, but you can't use that to say Vinland Saga is bad. I know, yeah, Ivar or whatever this bloke's name is. Ivar is just the person that would be affected by the magic of the sword, but at the same time he isn't unreasonable. Definitely not unreasonable, but it doesn't matter because we're standing above that right now to get to Vinland, to make it the paradise we want it to be. Heil is the correct person. Definitely not. Heil is easily the most obviously flawed person here. She literally is in the cycle of vengeance right now and still wants to kill Thorfinn because she is emotional. Depends entirely on the person or whether or not the sword can be used for good or bad. No, that's not the point of what Heil says later on. We'll get into that. Thorfinn is too weak to restrain himself in the sword. His philosophy is based on his own weakness. Of course, the weakness of people around him. He's observed this in reality everywhere. Oh fuck, Heil was mentioned, Bacon. Not only is a Vinland simp, he's a big fucking Heil simp too. Swords are used as a protective tactic. They stop violence, yes. What we need is a good man with a gun. Incorrect. Oh god, Minty's a commie. I said incorrect. I did see Gross commenting on it once. Minty is a tanky, right? So we are also convinced in stream chat, for anyone in the YouTube audience, that both Savage and Well Nevermind then are the same person. So keep that in mind. Am I the only person that thinks going to somebody else's homeland armed to the teeth is at least moderately stupid? Yes. Love how Kyle only reads half of my messages but still calls me a moron. We've established this before, Minty. Not Minty. Oh no, Savage. Savage probably stands Captain Cook. Yeah, he's a big Captain Cook fan. I'm not a tanky. Lol, I hate tankies. Yes. You're probably just a socialist, our boy Minty. How can you possibly think that Miller pacifism equals bad, equal colonialism good? Let's move on. Addressing the tattooed man's points. Here we go. What's his name? Ivar or whatever. So here he brings up a bunch of points. We'll get into them here. This is not the best fucking image of the chapter we could get. Thorfinn looks good, but you can't really read the words. It's him talking about how we could potentially get into trouble because the natives don't speak the same language as us. Our boy here brings up points that may seem reasonable if you haven't read Vinland Saga. But having read it, we understand why he is wrong and on every account, and that his lazy criticism is not good enough, as is your lazy cynicism if you agree with him. I said cynicism instead of criticism. I said criticism instead of cynicism there, I think. Firstly, our boy brings up that the natives could be a threat if they journey to Vinland. This has been established by the previous attempts to settle Vinland. Obviously, I think Leif's brother, who was originally going to be married to Gudrid, or was married to Gudrid, he tried to go there and he antagonized with the natives and they killed the party or whatever, or they had to retreat. It didn't end well because they were fucking around, and probably because they had swords. Thorfinn says that possible fights with the native is not justification for taking swords to Vinland. So Thorfinn has already figured out that if they take swords to Vinland and then they use them even in self-defense, that they will end up killing some native people, and then the cycle of violence will just start on Vinland, and then everything will be ruined, and then the entire point of creating paradise on Vinland would be lost, and there would be no point to stay on Vinland, and they would just have to come back to the normal Nordic society where all of these problems already exist about the cycle of hatred and everybody killing each other all the time and slavery existing. So the whole point is, if we're going to do this, we have to do this right, even no matter the risk, no matter what, because it's worth it, because the world is fucking awful and we can't live here and can't accept that the world is this fucked up and terrible, how everyone just kills and enslaves each other mindlessly. So we've got to go and create paradise, and if we have to risk all of our lives to do it, so be it. You have to come to the Vinland ship. I think, you have to come on the Vinland ship voluntarily. These are the stakes. If you don't want to, fuck off, is basically the point here. We know how we got to this point. If you've read Vinland Saga, it's been explained every step of the way how pacifism works and how Thorfinn is going to implement it on the fucking island, and we even get some of it explored later in the chapter. Let's go back to old chat over here. Disavowment, he says, well, you're agreeing with colonialism, my guy who tattooed man. How is he a colonization guy? Well, he definitely is by the end of the chapter, or at least his friend is. Thorfinn is the colonist, so what? If you're a colonist, do you have to, like, oppress the native people? I don't know. I'm not sure what the exact definition of colonist is now that I think about it. Seems like he would be. I haven't read it, so I can say for sure. Kyle is the final lib. Yes, definitely. Not a tanky, but definitely a lib. I bet Miller likes Pol Pot. Is Miller the tanky now? Pol Pot was a communist bloke, right? I think. How pacifism works, it doesn't. Again, laziness from Savage, and well, never mind then. Kyle, if Attack on Titan ends with Isayama agreeing with Eren, would you dislike it? Not inherently. Isn't it colonizer? Whatevs. We're not trying to have an Attack on Titan conversation until we are later in the thing. So that's that point. Addressing the tattooed man's points too. Firstly, I love this image. I tweeted out about this image. You can follow Twitter. It's also in the description. But this image is fucking great. I love this, like the imagery here. It's so good. The balance of power. How they've got more wealth, so it exposes them more and they can shoot them easily. It works as a little metaphor here. It's going on great. The world needs balance, a balance of armies. With the tribes, this isn't balanced. There can't be equal trade. This is just our lazy tattooed man trying to explain why he has to take his swords, when really he just likes his sword, I think. I think he's just making up these excuses as he gets there. And obviously these are arguments that Thorfinn has to weed out, because some people might seriously be thinking these things and the narrative has to address them for pacifism to work. This page is immaculate, by the way. Our boy's second excuse to take a sword is that they need them to be at the same strength as the natives to leverage trade and other things. He says they need an army because they need to keep the advantage, because that means they can't be taken out. Thorfinn says no. So obviously this is inherently against the entire point of Vinland, and if they were to do that, again, they would just be creating another Iceland in Vinland where the cycle would just continue. Armies would start warring with each other eventually, no matter what. Even if it takes 100 years and Thorfinn has to die off, then the next generation would come up and they would just start the war if they have an army. It's better to come entirely in peace with your hands up and being like, we're just trying to be friends here, than have weapons and be a threat. I feel like when a lot of people think of this, they just think like the native people are idiots or something and will just attack for no reason, which is not inherently true and isn't even true in real life, literally. Natives did not just attack people on sight. There was coordination with natives all the time on a lot of different colonizing efforts before eventually shit broke down. Even in the actual IRL Vinland Saga trip, they did settle for like 2 years and got along with the natives, I think, a little bit. Then eventually it all evaporated. But I think Vinland Saga is going to divert from history there, and I think we'll probably get a happy ending. Though I reserve the right to address this again if we don't have a happy ending. Again, this is against the entire point of the idea of Vinland. Thorfinn is not doing this for personal benefit, but to create a paradise. Remember the Thor speech about no war, no slaves, and no swords. Thor's was very much embodied and would support everything Thorfinn is doing here and would be very proud of his little boy. That's all cute. I think the distinction here is Thorfinn is being selfless, and the tattooed dude is being selfish. He wants the sword to cover just in case things fall apart. And he's obviously going for the wrong reasons. And I think that's the difference when Thorfinn is like, well, if they attack us, then so be it. We're not going to attack them back because then we would be in the wrong and they'd be in the right. He's taking the moral victory to the grave if he has to, because he is just that moral of a boy. And also he can punch people really good. But that's the addressing there. And then obviously Thorfinn's point is proved in the narrative because he tries to kill Thorfinn here and gets really angry and draws his sword, basically corroborating everything Thorfinn says. Though Thorfinn doesn't give this speech about swords like whispering in their master's ears for them to be used until after this, I don't think. Let me read this and then we'll read chat. Tattooed man gets angry and tries to attack Thorfinn, literally proving his point that if you have swords, you'll end up using them hilariously. Hey, in real life social commentary about guns in America who provocate. How provocative, I think, is what I was trying to say, not who provocative. I can't wait for people to run away from a story actually challenging your personal beliefs, and for them try about Vinland Saga cry about Vinland Saga getting political for no reason. Every story is inherently political. I don't want to hear this bullshit about how this allegory to guns is too realistic and keep your politics out of my games. I don't want to hear this fucking argument from people on Reddit if I have to see it. I think we might be hitting Savage and well, never mind then in chat on the head here. How their personal beliefs are being challenged by Thorfinn here, and they just don't like it, bro. They just don't like it. So yes, that's the whole point there. Let me read chat before that. I can see Savage and well, never mind then being very active. I see well, never mind then saying Kyle is anti-gun. Do you know what this accent says? I don't know. I don't know if people are listening. Is what you're thinking of, lol. Columnist is what you're thinking, Minty says back at the top. I kind of disagree with how this chapter does not address that they will have spears and axes and bows. It's like the entire conversation is not literal. It is actually a big thing. Maybe tryhard was the comment I saw on Reddit before, but this is something I will bring up later in the PowerPoint, but we may as well address it here. The reason why, because obviously Thorfinn is going to take axes and knives with him, presumably, to like cut things up and cut trees down, because they are useful. They have two uses, right? They could be used to kill people, but they could also be used as tools. Swords are literally only used to kill people. That's the entire point, and you can apply this to guns, obviously, as well. But the point is, even if Thorfinn, even if he has an axe and a knife, he's not going to use it, because then it would just create a thing. If anything, he will use his fists. We've seen him do that before. But he will not kill people, even in self-defense, because then he's failed entirely. And then Heil would kill him literally in the narrative, and then subtextually in the narrative, he will have failed his mission, and pacifism will have not worked. We just have to try and negotiate with the natives and have them not attack. We know that the natives can be nice. They were nice to Leif. He got some of the hand. In like the very beginning, he was wearing one of their things, and they like show a conversation where they first communicated with them. So there we go. That's that criticism addressed. If you are a pacifist, do you think you could talk Hitler out of invasion? This is completely wrong. You're already in the cycle. Thorfinn doesn't think he can go up to the leaders of the real world, not the real world. He can't go to Canute and say pacifism and have him stop, even though that did work one time. If he goes to the other kingdoms in the world, he doesn't think he can revolutionize the world. That's why he has to create his own country. That's the entire point. You can be a pacifist in the face of authority, even if it gets you killed. That's the whole point with Thorfinn. Now, not everybody can do this because not everybody is Thorfinn. Obviously, you can't be a pacifism to beat Hitler. Obviously, that was a justified war. It's completely different. This is about an ideal rather than like a literal interpretation. I don't know why Savage can't understand what a theme is in a story, but here we go. If not, how can you come to that conclusion? Are you lazy? Savage is mad because I called him lazy, because one of the big points in Vinland Saga is people dismiss pacifism off the top immediately because they're like, bro, that can't work. And it's basically just like Vinland Saga saying, no, you really just haven't tried hard enough. The sword is quite nice sword. It looks quite expensive. I guess Bacon is talking about a previous slide maybe or something. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Savage, what you're saying has nothing to do with the chapter. Fiction doesn't equal real life. I don't know what Miller's talking about. Not everyone is Hitler, and not everyone should be approached like Hitler. Gee, what a big distinction. Kyle is saying I'm lazy for being a so-called realist. You're definitely not a realist. I don't think that's a real label. I'm arguing against this. It's not hard. Well, you're having a lot of trouble here. Thorfinn got flocked by natives IRL. Yes, I think that is unironically true. But what Tryhard just said. 3 Tryhard, it doesn't matter what the people who can't be reasoned with look at invaders throughout history. This is not the point. Invaders exist in the Vinland Saga world. Thorfinn is not trying to stop them. He's trying to create a new world. That's the whole point. I definitely think Vinland not going historical would be a cop-out. Why even be historical then? Because it's an idea. Does Tryhard think it's going to have a bad ending? I don't understand. But I don't think there will be a happy ending. Why? I see a lot of people say this. I can't understand why people would think it. Besides, like, the real-life thing. Like, why would Vinland Saga not have a happy ending? We'll see, though. I'm not, like, guaranteeing a happy ending, I don't think. Selfish for trying to defend the settlement. Yes, the whole point is that he's an idealization of an idealized version of selflessness. He's better than you. Yeah, but the expedition here are the invaders. Well, not if they don't kill anybody, if they're just like, can we live here? And the natives are like, yeah, cool, we can help each other out. Because despite what Savage and Well Nevermind they might think, immigration is always good. It's easy. Obviously, if you have more people, you can be more productive. Creates more jobs, basic capitalism stuff, which now is going to get Minty triggered, because capitalism is good. And then, well, Nevermind then has the hilarious point about Kyle being anti-gun, even though he lives in Australia. Bringing swords risks conflict even more, and then the natives should understand that if they try to kill or steal from the next expedition, won't be so nice. Well, it depends if they land on the exact same place and encounter the same tribe that Leaf's brother-in-law or whatever, or I think it might have been his literal brother, tried to do back in the day. None of the bad shooters are licensed gun owners. If you finna commit a crime with a gun, you don't want a legal license. No, you just take it from your father because you're a school shooter. What the fuck is this argument? Well, never mind. Are you ... Under no pretext should arms and ammunition be surrendered. Any attempt to disarm the workers must be frustrated by forces necessary based marks. No, not true. The threat of deterrence is still there if they are less provocative. Hold on, let me read this again. The threat of deterrence is still there if they are less provocative. I don't know. Say it again, Third. I've got a headache and we're going a million miles an hour. I can't process these big words. I don't think Kyle is a Marxist, Lamau. Definitely not. Oh god, we're doing this argument now. Yikes. Well, Vinland Saga asked for it. Yukimori knew what he was doing. This is a very literal allegory for guns here. I don't think he's a Marxist either. Well, never mind then. Yeah, I think Well, never mind then was just agreeing with a Marxist quote. A Marx quote. Also, the reasons Americans are pro-gun is because it's baked into their culture and you're going to start a civil war by trying to take it from them. Definitely true. But still, I don't give a fuck. We got an ocean away from them. I'm not cynical, I'm quite optimistic, but pacifism is literally the most optimistic philosophy you could have. Yes. It's like saying, if you ain't a commie, you're a Nazi. Again, with the weird, like, if you ain't a commie, you're a Nazi. Who is saying this? Savage, you have said multiple times that you prefer tragic endings. You're definitely not an optimist when it comes to consumed media. But it would be more interesting, bro. I fucking hate this talking point as well. I just want Vinland Saga to have a bad ending because it would be more interesting, whatever that means. Minty, most Americans are pro-gun because they go pew-pew and they're manly. That's cultural, so yeah, definitely true. Absolutely destroyed. Ideals need to apply to real life, otherwise you shouldn't believe in them. No, like, isn't the whole point of religion in human history to be a better ideal that humans can't ascribe to? Like, no, obviously that's fucking stupid. Not true. I like Vinland and One Piece, which have conflicting views in Luffy's and Thorfinn's perspective on pacifism. Yes, not all characters agree with each other, boys. I said it will have a happy ending, but it will still go historical. Okay, well that's definitely a different position. So Vinland fails, but it still has a happy ending. I'm interested. Um, it's not the cycle. There doesn't have to be loads of unprovoked. There have been loads of unprovoked invasions. The natives could squash the settlement easily. Well, you just got to try. How's this even a counter argument? Don't ascribe beliefs to me, Cuck. I think he's talking to Minty. Where the fuck did you get the idea that I'm anti-immigration? Well, just assuming from everything else you're saying, that's where we got the idea. There was no if that in that sentence, Kyle. I don't know what sentence he's talking about. Chat is delayed and we're behind. Kyle, pretty sure you can be Australian and be pro-gun. Yeah, you'd just be the biggest dumb fuck in the history of dumb fucks. Miller, when did you say I prefer tragic endings? Stop putting words. Savage, you've said that millions of times. It's no problem. You change your fucking position on everything a million times whenever you're in chat on a different day. Because he just doesn't have them axioms grounded. What can we say? The dyslexia making me cry. No ableism in chat. Definitely not Minty. We don't tolerate that ableism bullshit. This is just facts and logic. I definitely remember you saying it multiple times, Savage. No, it's not true. I like the tragedy. Well, you're the same person. I didn't even read Miller's thing. That was my response. Holy fuck. And then, big thing. Yukimura sparks discussion on a topic we discussed. Kyle says talk about the story only. I definitely did not. What did I say about that? No, you were just making shitty points. That was the entire point. I didn't say stop the conversation. But we're moving on here. Thorfinn sword speech. He has a big sword speech here that's really cute and good and very good. I think if I read it a few more times and if I let it settle in, it could be an all-time Vinland Saga moment. I'm not sure. We are coming out with top 10 Vinland Saga moments soon, as we are for Berserk and Attack on Titan, but that's a topic for a different day. Thorfinn's sword speech is entirely on point here and is very well done. This is a great moment in his Thorfinn identifying the problem with Nordic society and violence and vengeance in general. The tools, swords, make it all possible, and the swords have no other purpose unlike things like knives or axes. I saw a comment on Reddit that Thorfinn should have brought that up, which also misses the entire point. We already went over that. I think we can move on here, because God, do I have a blistering fucking headache. Thorfinn's point personified. I really love this panel. It'll probably be the thumbnail somehow. But this very intense Thorfinn, like, he's no longer goofy. It's like, fuck you, this is what we're doing. But if we bring swords, we'll use them. If we use them, it's over. Which is basically bringing the subtext to the surface about everything we've been saying here. If we have to use swords at any time, for any reason, it's over. We failed. There's no point. But that's not realistic, bro. How this is like the Jaegerists, the moment we've all been waiting for that will no doubt bring up even more discussion that I don't want to have. The thematic point being made here by Thorfinn and his reasons to not want to take swords to Vinland is exactly the same reason the Avengers, but more specifically the scouts in the Avengers, had to oppose Eren. They are being selfless, prioritizing the lives of billions of people globally over themselves, while Eren and his supporters, Jaegerists, are acting selfishly. The point is here, we still don't know shit about Eren, so it's more his supporters. But putting Eren in the title is hilarious, and it will make people very mad. And that was our goal here today. Because we really don't know shit about this boy. But definitely his supporters. On principle, Thorfinn and Armin can't just let lists dissolve into madness, even in self-defense, because it's morally wrong. That's what makes them heroes. They are not like you and me. They are better. I think this is, again, another thing that Savage keeps bringing up in chat, that, like, oh, it's not realistic, no one would be like this, when the whole point is, like, you could be like this is someone being like this, be like them. That's the entire point here. But to elaborate a little more on the Jaeger's position, why it's similar. Because it's a principled stance, basically, that, like, even though Armin, Connie, Jean, and Mikasa, it would be maybe better for them to just sit back and let the rumbling happen. Like, nothing will be taken from them, really. If they just fall in line with Eren, they can have the peaceful life. We saw this with Jean in that one flashback in 126, I think it was. But this is just morally abhorrent. How could you live with yourself if you just let billions die for your own sake? Like, this is not a good thing to do. You can just cynically dismiss it, be like, you had to do it, bro, but you really didn't. You really didn't have to do it. And even though Armin and even though Thorfinn don't have plans moving forward, Armin doesn't have a plan for afterwards, and Thorfinn doesn't have a plan if things fall apart. It's that these are principled positions that they hold. They have to do this because there's no other way, because the alternatives are not worth living in. For Armin, for Jean, for Mikasa, for Connie, it is not worth a world to live in where the rumbling happens and they get peace because of it. It's an extreme too far. You know, Hanji slamming the desk, mass slaughter is wrong. Mass slaughter is wrong. Is exactly what Thorfinn is doing here. If we can't do it, then the natives deserve to live there and we don't, and therefore we have to take the punishment. But it's worth the risk. It's worth everything. It's worth risking everything. It's worth killing Eren. It's worth ourselves getting killed in Vinland's case for us to fucking do this, to get this happy ending. I'm still iffy on both of them if they will pan out, but this is the thematic point and the point being made here, that it must be worth it, that they must try at least to get this happy ending rather than having a very depressing fucking ending and getting it for their own benefit. Because Thorfinn could go there, and if they get attacked, Thorfinn could beat the fuck out of all the native people, probably. And I'm sure towards the end of Vinland, probably the last thing will be like, oh no, the natives and Thorfinn's group are probably about to come into combat. But Thorfinn will have to like diffuse the situation in some big grand speech or something at the end, which will probably be done by Gabby in Attack on Titan. But that's the point there. Let me read chat, because fuck me. I'm trying to get this fucking... I'm trying to get this over with because, boy, I do have a headache. Just assume my opinions by only reading half my messages. Cry me a river, Savage. You could say this about literally everything, and you have in the past, so why would we believe you now? Kyle and Miller, the same person? It's possible. Maybe I'm just talking to myself in my chat now. Shit, you got us. Anti-pacifist, equal anti-immigration. No, you just had like a history of shitlord opinions and shitlord takes that would lead us to think you're probably... an edgy, like, 15-year-old right-wing boy, Savage. It's good that you aren't if you aren't. We're on 9 viewers live. That's cool. Kyle, this PowerPoint reads like a Trump tweet. I write these right before fucking stream. They don't have to be written well. I ain't submitting these anywhere. It is on power. It is on point here, which is very well done. He's making fun of my capitalization. Kyle is the only person I watch who reads everyone's messages. You're just wrong, Savage. Well, Minty complains all the time about me misreading his messages. I don't give a fuck. I feel like the magic of the sword is possibly better translated to the curse and blessing of the sword. It works either way. It doesn't matter. I'm about to be triggered by this comparison. Curse of the sword, curse of the clown. The clown/sword forces you to gain and use the power. I don't know what the crown thing. Yes, it definitely is a parallel to the curse of the crown that Canute and his father, what the fuck was Swain? They talk about, and Swain has, Vinland Saga isn't very realistic, boys. At some point, this fucking head starts talking. Pretty fucking weird. I don't know. Vinland Saga really went off the rails, bro. Kyle don't like realism because he knows his opinions are based off naive shite. Just lazy, Savage. I don't know. You're just not trying hard enough. Well, never mind then's agreeing with himself. Well, never mind then patting himself on the back. I swear to God, I did not read that fucking message. Now me and Minty are the same person. I'm not fuck off. Well, never mind then, you're not helping. Oh, please. A Savage versus well, never mind then fight. Is it possible? What would happen? The whole point of the Jean flashback is that if he did accept it, it would always be subconsciously thinking about how he let billions of people die for his own convenience, and he wouldn't have a peaceful life. Yes, yes, yes. Bacon says tryhard is being brain dead, and he accidentally did the try-hex tryhard emote. Oh no. Oh no, Minty's spamming tryhard. That's possibly racist. Didn't mean that tryhard. Tryhard. If Thorfinn stays pacifist, it means his character's been stale for half the story. No, because it's always being put to the test and it's getting fleshed out. I actually have been making this point for a while, but I went back and I watched a Super Eye Patch Wolf where he makes this great point about the difference between character progression and character development and how they're completely different things, and people just misunderstand what character development means. And Savage is doing it now. Who would have thought he would do something stupid? Oh no, I'd say this comparison is a stretch. Wasn't that bad though. Comparison is completely on point. Everybody else but me is dumb. Minty is now spamming our emote, which is much better than spamming tryhard. Savage, a character holding the same belief for a long period of time doesn't make them stale. Yeah, my man Luffy, man, he just wanted to be king of the pirates the whole time. What a fucking stale character. You literally have only read half my messages. You read them out loud, I know. I haven't read Vinland, but Kyle doesn't believe a character needs development to be good. True! Look at The Sopranos. The best thing ever made. Does Tony really develop at all? No, because fuck that pussy shit. I'm not edgy right-wing boy. I'm quite mellow and safe in my opinions. Okay, Savage. That's nice. So that point doesn't work. Hasn't Thorfinn already developed by becoming a pacifist, though? Yes, that's like the whole first 2 arcs. Yeah, he's the polar opposite of how he started now. I don't know. Yeah, even as a kid, he was a little shit, so I guess he is even the polar opposite of that, though we didn't start there. Unless you watched the fucking anime first or something awful like that. According to Savage, a character is like a hot potato. They can't be on the spot for too long. They'll become stale. They got to keep changing it up. Yes, he's just making bad points to try and justify his original position. Characters have been different personalities every to strange first. A Savage vs. Well Never mindset. What would happen? It's like if you punch yourself and then it hurts. Are you weak or strong? Interesting indeed. Tried XD. Oops, how is it racist? Well, the tryhard emote is notoriously used for racist things. I once respected you, Don Kyle, however, you have lost all semblance of logic. Isn't that nice? Digital blackface, question mark? No. But for real, I wasn't paying attention. I just saw someone doing an emote on accident. I literally got banned for saying that, Minty. No, not true. That's not what you got banned for, Savage. By the way, the literal answer about the thing above is if you punch yourself, it hurts, you're weak. The Shisha mode has been very radical, Twitter mode, controversial because of racist factor replacement. I don't know what Minty's quoting here. Damn. Well, yeah, he looked it up. I guess Minty actually didn't know. Sorry, lads. Thorfinn is boring. I want him to change and become more interesting. Sorry. Well, that's cool, Savage. You said it yourself, Kyle. No, I thought he was a little stagnant there for a little while, but I like this direction, so whatever. It seems it's something about the N-word. Yes, of course. Whenever there's... I don't need to explain what tryhard means most of the time. I still don't get it, but put on balance, I'm a spammer. A heap of other remotes, Savage. Oh, he completely betrays the core of themes and stories. How can you not see this? He doesn't care, Miller. And then he's spamming some other emotes. Zan says... Zan is here, who was arguing on me with Twitter a little bit, and he says, hey, I have some news for you. All right, go ahead, Zan. Bro, I'm not a Twitch fan. And he says, I got timed out 10 minutes for calling for digital blackface. No, Savage, you said the N-word and you got banned. That's what happened. I made this account just to watch you because of YouTube. Isn't that nice, Minty? Same, Minty. Converting people to Twitch viewers. I'm waiting for Zan to say something. Minty's now spamming again. Well, not making the account, Miller says. Whatever. He did. Alright, that's the Jaeger's point. That's the clickbait. That's what you clicked here for. Let's speed through this, because fuck me, do I have a headache. Minty's still spamming? Did anyone say a message in the middle of Minty spamming? I don't think so. I don't know about the true... I didn't know about the true thing, remember, I guess. Alright, stop spamming shit. This is your second YouTube Twitch upload in a row. That has racism in it. Yes, maybe, the old other thing. Miller is completely possible for Thorfinn to realize he's a moron by the end. The Vinland trip is to see if it works. It can go either way. That's very unlikely just because of the setup of everything. The first one was the guy who followed. Yes, I remember. So now, a new because Yukimura knows that some people Savage might not be into it yet, might not agree with our old pacifistic message. So he's introducing 2 new problems here for Thorfinn and his pacifism, because he constantly tests Thorfinn because it is actually well written and very well laid out why pacifism will work, and we've explained that in detail already in this video. Thorfinn got all the answers in the Farmland arc and the Baltic Sea War arc. He was tested in his new pacifistic beliefs, and now in the Sailing West arc, if that's what we're calling it, He is being presented with even more new challenges to arise in this chapter, and this is the first of them. This bloke over here wants to take advantage of Vinland after Thorfinn fails. So now we get to see how Thorfinn will handle an opportunist who tries to undermine him from the inside. How does he outmaneuver someone who is pretending to agree with him just for personal gain? So this bloke over here is like, once Thorfinn fails, we can take over Vinland and like kill the natives and do whatever, and we'll get everything. Again, selfishness personified. They're not doing it for some altruistic reason. They're not doing it to create paradise on Earth, just like obviously Canute and Thorfinn are trying to do. They just want some easy profit, I guess. And obviously this is bad, so we're going to have to see how Thorfinn deals with this. I think they'll get weeded out. Either these three will get convinced that pacifism is cool, or they'll get weeded out before they leave, or something like that. So that's another problem that's arising, and something for the future to look out for. Then we've got another one. We're speeding through here because I really do have a fucking headache. New problems arise for Thorfinn. Heil doesn't buy it. So here we go. We'll talk about this after we read. Thorfinn may have identified the wider societal and cultural problems regarding vengeance and the use of a sword, but identifying the problem and being regretful does not mean that Thorfinn has been forgiven for their sin. Thorfinn still killed probably hundreds of people in his past, and simply realizing what he did was wrong and why, and the environmental circumstances that made him the way he was, doesn't excuse what he's done. This is a big point that Heil brings up here, even though Heil is being incredibly fucking stupid, as she always has been. Heil is not free either. She likely gets mad at his anti-vengeance talk because she herself is very vengeful. She should not be treating Thorfinn this way. She is not a moral actor, at least not yet. Heil needs to go through the development that we all know is coming with her, that we've talked about a million times in a million different videos, how she'll have to eventually forgive Thorfinn. Unless she doesn't, and somehow we do get that dark ending. We'll have to see. Or maybe Thorfinn kills someone and then Heil doesn't kill Thorfinn. That might be an interesting thing to show Heil's development, but we'll see. So yeah, so it's like someone identifies what they did wrong, and someone has to be like, well, you're still not forgiven for him. Just because you know what happened and what you did wrong doesn't forgive what you did. And that's Heil's role here, also while getting mad because fucking Thorfinn's starting to make sense and it's pissing her off. So it's like Thorfinn, even you can't find peace even though you've identified the problem. Like, you have to do something about it. And creating Vinland, like the paradise on Earth, is how he will equate for his sins. What word would you use there? Why am I blanking? For his sins to be forgiven. I don't know what the fuck I mean anymore. How many more? We have one more thing. We're not going to go into Reddit and complain about people being stupid. We'll just read chat after this. Then we end with an old Gudrid gag here. Gudrid is a pervert. Gudrid jumps on Thorfinn after Heil storms off. She's no longer worried. I don't think about Heil being in love with Thorfinn. If you remember last chapter, Gudrid was getting a little jealous maybe that Heil might be in love with Thorfinn, and a little insecure, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. It's been demonstrated here that Heil is not a fan of Thorfinn and definitely not in love with him. I don't entirely understand this moment. Thorfinn comments about her sniffing him, and she says she's doing it because she's a pervert. I thought the implication was that she was crying and sniffling, and Thorfinn, who has no social skills, thought she was sniffing him. But then she's sort of crying here, but she's not crying here. So maybe she was just sniffing him. Maybe this gets lost in translation. I'm not sure what's going on. She's both scared for Thorfinn, proud of Thorfinn, in love with Thorfinn, and protective of Thorfinn. Here it's cute. Because this is a very weird emotional face. But last episode she was insecure, and she was also literally dancing in a field about how much she loves her husband. And she's also scared for him now because Heil hasn't forgiven him and he nearly got in another fight. Laptop is going flat. We did take the brightness down a little notch. So it's a weird little cute little moment here at the end. And that's how our chapter ends. We'll keep it on this while we read chat, and then we'll say goodbye because I need to get the fuck up out of here. I wonder if Zan actually said what he was talking about. Miller is completely possible. Yes, we read that one. The first one was the guy who followed. Yes, I remember that. Is anyone finna watch this mess of a video? Yes, they are, Savage. Savage, Vinland Saga would be a pretty bad story if pacifism is portrayed to be wrong suddenly at the end. It definitely would be a very big departure from everything that's happened there. The rest of the story would be the biggest waste of time. Definitely true. And no, it would be subversive, Minty says. There's a reason subversive has a sub in it. Shake my head. I was reading volume 24, where Reiner, Annie, and Bert are uprooting trees, and they I think he means talk about the nobles that have power over Paradis. They realize they're not subjects of Ymir and call them a different race of Eldian. We talked about this last time. This is not really a conversation for our old Vinland Saga audience. So that kind of patches things up from the talks we had before. Yes, that is very relevant to what we said last time. No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. Thorfinn still doesn't know if it will work. While the majority of Eldia is subjects of Ymir, and the nobles, Ackermans, and Asians are not part of Eldians, or part of subjects of Ymir. That is all. Realism is a critique, Kyle, if you want to preach to your audience and tell them to apply it to real life. No, because you use realism wrong. It's never been anti-realism. It's always been that you use it wrong, and for things that are very convenient to you, and then you ignore it completely when it's not convenient to you. That was always the point. It was the point against Jojo, and if you aren't Jojo, it's the point against you. Thorfinn is still a virgin, right? Or has Gudrid smelled him? The implication, we still don't have confirmation, but there's no way they haven't slept together at this point. I want to watch, so if they haven't, watching them the first time would be cool. I'm not sure if I like this picture. Heil now has some... has the disease Thorfinn has, that being the eyes that seem to change size every now and then. I don't know what Bang is talking about. I think Thorfinn himself got challenged in the Baltic Sea War, not his ideals themselves. I see the arc as the consequences of the past of violence, and as the reason Thorfinn needs to leave. No, he already understands at that point. I made a whole video about this. But no, like, Garm is definitely an attack on pacifism. There's like a million things I outline in that video about how it's designed to... I think the video is literally called how the Baltic Sea War is designed to test Thorfinn or whatever. I don't want to get in that conversation now. I'm trying to end this fucking video. Thorfinn's eyes have been all over the place recently. I guess Bacon's literally talking about eyes? I don't know. Garm is in no way challenged Thorfinn's ideals, just his resolve. That's not true at all. The theme needs to make sense in the setting of the story. The reader can see this and decide it to apply this to real life. This doesn't mean that the setting of the story has to be the same as real life, Savage. Don't worry. He's just going to change his definition of realism every 3 seconds. It doesn't matter. I'm really surprised that Yukimura brought the guns don't kill people, people kill people arguments into this chapter, but hey, yep, that's basically what Heil is talking about. When it's obviously a combination of both, right? If there are no guns, then no one gets shot by guns. But people might still kill each other. That's irrelevant to the point. Sniff fetish, maybe. Carl be like, subversive doesn't mean good. Carl also like, Thorgil kill Canute. I love subversive stuff. I didn't make that point. Minty did. But obviously not all subversions are good. But they're just really cool most of the time. Gudrid jumps on Thorfinn and tries to smell him just because she's suspicious of him and Heil, maybe. I reckon a weapon will be smuggled onto the ship and conflict will ensue when they find out about it, maybe. I thought it was called back to her nuzzling him in bed. Maybe. I don't know. It could fall apart even before they reach Vinland. It could. That is a classic trope. Yukimura crafts the situations. They're not realistic situations even in the setting. He is biased. Oh my god, he is biased. Everyone is obviously biased. What the fuck? He's literally... you can't have a theme without being biased. Oh my god. I don't want to do this with Savage again. Everybody's biased. Exactly. Savage understands his thing. Of course, he created a world specifically for the purpose of giving this message. Like, he's literally created the exact scenario to do this. Like, what is bringing up bias of anything to do with it? His bias to pacifism, his bias to his own beliefs? What a dumb fucking point this is. For Fair enough if you think this, but use examples from the story instead of bringing up Hitler to prove your point. Well, he doesn't have a point. That's the whole point. The Hitler point was my argument towards pacifism in general. Nothing to do with the story. It didn't even apply to the story anyway, because Thorfinn isn't trying to stop fucking Knut's enemies by using pacifism. He's trying to create his own country and do his own thing, ignoring the rest of the world. Wait. Isn't Switzerland a whole country that, like, stayed, like, neutral the whole time and no one invaded them? Isn't that, like, the whole thing? So didn't pacifism almost work in the face of Hitler anyway? Fuck me. Okay, so it was a pointless to bringing up. It has nothing to do with Vinland Saga. No, because Kyle called me stupid for not being a pacifist. I said the point of Vinland Saga is that you're just not trying hard enough and you're being very dismissive. And obviously Savage is, because he's going on this massive tirade. I'd argue that it's immoral for the story to portray pacifism as a good thing. That is an interesting thing you could do from your perspective. Well, never mind then. I just think it would be an awful argument. I was addressing Kyle directly. Well, never mind then. Good boy, my argument exactly. Yes, pacifism is immoral. I guess we're the same person. Change my definition of realism. Realism means real life, bro. No, it doesn't. Probs, wait, well, never mind then. What is your penis size? Savage, you're not allowed to talk about your penis. You're 16. You'll get us in trouble. Did you know that 16 is the age of consent in Australia? Who knew? I was talking about the drawing quality. The eye size has been quite inconsistent recently, with Thorfinn at least, and now with my girl Heil. Sad times. I don't know. I don't know about this, and I don't think eye sizes have to be consistent. Don't ask me something so personal. This is like what I said before with people being like Isayama is portraying Eren as the villain post time skip or Flock. Yes, this is all true. Can I get to the bottom of chat, please? Nah, Flock is legit being portrayed as a sadistic prick by Isayama. Well, this dude with the sword is obviously being portrayed as a moron, but people still aren't getting it. Like, you didn't think the Jaegerists were good up until chapter 123. Calm down. He could have been written better character, but I think we're talking about Flock now. Native Americans are part of the world, bro. There's thousands of years of violent history. I don't know what that's saying. Switzerland has a massive army, one of the biggest in Europe, mainly because of World War II. Really, I did not know this. Do you think pacifism is bad, Kyle? No. What are we talking about now? Sounding a little racist, Savage. What the fuck? How? I'm saying there is some sense in every way pacifism is an underlying theme of Vinland Saga. Hot take. Zan out here. Why are we even calling it pacifism? Thorfinn will resort to fighting if he needs to. He just won't stand there while being attacked. Oh, because it very much is pacifism, right? You can punch people and still have your idea of pacifism. Pacifism, this is a mindless word game. 122 and 123 really were unfortunate radicalization chapters. They definitely were. But that would betray the point. Yes, the point comes before everything. It comes before realism. It comes before consistency, at least from my view. Thorfinn swore like twice to do what his father couldn't. I feel like there is a term for it, but pacifism will do. It communicates the message well enough. And what are words outside of communicating ideas? How is this an awful argument? Pacifism is deluded and its support is the status quo. How? It is therefore racist, patriarchal, and statist. Jesus Christ. Maybe, well, never mind, that is a big fucking commie meme. Can I just end this thing? Semantics, bro. His father realized that he couldn't become a true warrior yet and tried to teach Thorfinn. That might be the worst take I've ever heard on this stream. Well, never mind then. Lol, well, never mind then. Read How Knocking Infinity State, but oh no, he's doing the old lefty meme of telling you to read a bunch of books that he probably even hasn't read himself. Pacifism doesn't believe in social or structural change. Definitely not me. He's stupid. Yeah, Savage is going on the defensive now. We're done. That was the big argument. If you have something to say in the comments, it'll probably be dumb as fuck, and I'll have to respond to it. I got a blistering fucking headache. Big old discussion about Vinland Saga, thematic depth, all the stuff you want here. A lot longer than usual. We'll see how this goes over with the audience. We'll see if we get the mass dislikes I'm asking for by putting the Eren thing in the title. We'll see everything that goes on here, but for the YouTube audience, I'm sure Twitch chat is still going on. You should have been here if you want more of this fucking discussion. This is what happens every time we stream. Savage says some stupid shit. Everyone else dunks on him. What can we say? With that being said, great chapter. We loved it. Support links in the description below. Thanks.